Welcome everybody on this Sunday morning, our weekly Sunday morning show, Coffee with Cioffi and Rao, or if you prefer, Coffee with Rao and Cioffi, or if you just prefer coffee, or maybe you prefer tea, whichever it is. We are so happy to have you here at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on this Palm Sunday, as our social distancing continues. Yes, did you do that yourself?
No, my wife did.
Oh, okay, good. Well,
My wife, my
I
wife,
should I should have guessed that.
my wife takes palms and she makes them into, as you can see, crosses here.
Yeah,
And
that's an Italian thing too. I think so it does translate, which is interesting. But go on.
interesting, when the church gets its delivery of palms in advance of Palm Sunday, which is on Wednesday or Thursday, she goes down to the church. They give her a bunch of palms. She comes home and then she spends the next 2 or 3 days making them into this. And then when we have the mass, then at the end of the mass, people could take palms on their own, but she also hands this out. And so
Right.
it's not
And,
it's not it's not the usual way that we celebrate Palm Sunday, of course, this year, but it's the best that we can do uh,
right. You
today.
said you were. You told me off camera you were watching
The
the
virtual mass,
virtual mass from St. Patrick's Cathedral.
right?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting weekend. Every day, each day, more and more. And so far today, thankfully, not it hasn't happened. But as I go through my Facebook feed and I see people posting about the fact that they tested positive for the virus, or um, perhaps in some cases, thankfully, minor symptoms. In other cases, far more serious. Um, a couple of things that came to me over the weekend and over the last few days that I wanted to bring up. You know, they've been talking about when Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx, particularly Dr. Birx, because she's talks a lot about the models that they use and how the models have changed or are changing as they get more and more data into them. And I thought a lot about how similar, in a very broad way, what we do on a daily basis, and
You
how.
know,
Go ahead.
I was going to bring this up back on Friday. In fact, it came into my mind. I was going to bring it up, and then something happened. I forgot about it completely, and I was going to bring it up first thing this morning. But you and I are thinking again, as usual, on the same wavelength. I was thinking about that too. How everybody is hanging literally on every word that Dr. Fauci and the other doctor in terms of the modeling and when we're going to go over the hump, so to speak, 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, or whatever. And I said to myself, this is almost like with an impending big storm coming, and how our various models,
Right.
the GFS and the NAM and the European, how they're all differing in their methodology of trying to nail down when we're going to get hit. And I said to myself, this is just like what we do. Again, as you've just pointed out, in a broader and different type of sense, but still basically the same thing.
And the thing is, the way the audience reacts, in this case, the audience is basically the entire nation. But the way the weather audience reacts is actually, as I've noticed on feeds, the same way that our people are reacting in the same way. And what I mean by that is, you have the armchair Monday morning quarterbacks. Then you have those people that are posting that, well, you've got the models originally said that we were going to have X amount of of deaths, and now they're saying Y amount of deaths, and X being greater than Y. Some people are expressing almost being pissed off about the fact that they were unnecessarily alarmed by the idea that there might be twice or three times as many deaths as what reality may come out. And you know how we get you predict a storm, especially I'm not going to even put snowstorms necessarily in this category because, but when it comes to hurricanes, and you predict a storm that is a Category 5 storm, and it starts to weaken as it approaches land, and maybe only goes in as only quote unquote as a Category 3 or a Category 2, or remember back with Hurricane Florence a couple of years ago, a 4 goes in as a 1, and people were actually complaining because of the fact that it was going in as a Category 1, and they weren't getting the tragedy that they were hoping for. And that's kind of where I've been with respect to reacting to people who may say, and we don't even know what the final number is going to be because we're not even there yet. But
Right.
you've got people armchair quarterbacking here from home because everybody now is an epidemiologist, everybody now is a physician, and it's just kind of interesting the fact that how human nature and how it plays out, similar to what we do, and the reactions that we get.
And what reminds me, in a meteorological sense, of what is going on with the current situation and with Dr. Fauci, and see if you disagree on this. It reminds me so much, in a meteorological sense, of what happened in 1985 with Hurricane Gloria and with Dr. Neil Frank. And if you remember, Dr. Frank, as Hurricane Gloria is coming up the eastern seaboard and apparently making its way right toward New York and at the time it was like Category 3 or 4 or
Right.
whatever, scurrying around every which way or whatever. And Neil Frank literally was on 24/7. He was on Dan Rather News. He was on Peter Jennings. He was on CNN. He was everywhere. And he was sitting in the same chair, answering the same questions from everybody who came to him. He didn't turn down any interview. And then in the end, when Hurricane Gloria at the last minute weakened to a Category 1, came into central Long Island, created some damage, but not a whole heck of a lot overall. Everybody seemed like they were disappointed. They were like a jilted lover. Like, hey, what happened? We were told this was
Yeah.
going to be the storm of the century. What the heck happened here? It's very strange the human the way humans act sometimes. That, as you just said, they almost wish that we did have a major catastrophe to fall in line with what
Well,
you know.
my response to that, my new response that I've come up with in the last couple of years is that, you know what, do without. Don't if don't pay attention to any information. Don't pay attention to forecasts of a major hurricane. There have been enough examples over the last 15 or 20 years of major hurricanes that have ripped a number of coastlines apart and have killed many people and have created mass amounts of destruction, and then that will probably happen. I'm certain that is certainly going to continue to happen this year, maybe if not this year, maybe next year or the year after. But if you think that this is um, something that is overplayed, overhyped, hoaxed, et cetera, et cetera. You know what? You can always turn the TV off. You don't have to pay any attention to any warnings or watches. You don't have to pay any attention to the medical experts that are, have an education that exceeds your Facebook degree, and you could just ignore it and see where that gets you. I did take solace in the fact that there was one person showed me a tweet from someone who has been online, um, going on and on about the fact that the coronavirus is a big fake. And guess what? They got it. And my response to that, my response to that was simply, well, you know what? There is a God, and sometimes God has a sense of humor here. I mean, I don't mean to imply that the good Lord is sitting up there pointing people out and just sort of haphazardly saying, "You get it, you get it, you get it." But here's where you have someone that is not only believing in disinformation, and not only believing that in something that has no scientific backing whatsoever, or any evidence to suggest otherwise, but that belief is actually destructive. It's destructive to themselves. It's destructive to other people out there who might be, having doubts, and they see somebody who says, "You know what? Come here, listen to what I have to say, because I know more than you do." All right. This is what conspiracy theorists, how they they thrive because basically they're narcissists and they're begging for attention. So if they can collect a crowd to worship them, either in real time, either real crowds or in virtual crowds, they are satisfied. And there's one other thing I want to bring up just before I forget. So, they've been saying one of the things that's been going, the arguments about the hydroxychloroquine, okay, that it might help, that it might not help. So I thought this morning, what? Let me ask a couple of friends of mine that are in the medical field that are doctors, okay, and see what they say. And these are people that I think are certainly very reputable, and they know what they're doing. They're in the middle of all of this. They're working. They're out there saving lives, and not sitting in the armchairs with their feet up. And one of the things in the news has been the fact that there have been governors who have of certain states who have made it illegal for doctors to dispense hydroxychloroquine.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I asked them and I said, you know what? This doesn't really make any sense to me because you've got if the governors are doing this, okay, you also have the FDA saying that it is perfectly reasonable for doctors to prescribe it um, to hospital patients who currently have the disease. So I asked them, are the rules designed mainly to prevent doctors from prescribing the medication to well patients, to well people, or people who don't have the disease or don't test positive for it? Is the rule right now there because they're trying to prevent a shortage so that they have enough of the drug for the people that are in the hospital that need it? And the answer to that, because that's the only way it makes sense to me. It made sense to me. And the answer to that question is unequivocally yes. That is why you're seeing some of these governors they seem to be in high population states where they're dealing with hotspots, and they're seeing that okay, there is some medication that doctors may use in hospitals. Um, let's not have a shortage develop because uh, some people are going into their doctors and say, "I want you to prescribe the hydroxychloroquine, even though I don't have the disease." So just to make that clear out there, I'm not, this is not about politics here. I just kind of just want to make that clear that that's the reason why in some states doctors have been told that they can't prescribe it. They can't prescribe it to well patients. They can prescribe it to people that are in hospitals who they think might be helped by it.
And what do you think, Joe? Because you have family, you have your son-in-law, your daughter, your grandchild living in
Grandchildren,
and Georgia, the governor shut the state down, but then I read somewhere yesterday that he opened up the beaches.
oh, John, you're a real genius, just sheer genius. Well, now I didn't read the piece, so let me just take that back for a moment. In Florida, my understanding is that the beaches are closed, okay, quote unquote, uh, but you can go to them, okay. You just, there are no lifeguards there. If you
Right.
choose to go to the beach and walk on the beach, you can do that, okay. So that's from what I understand for Florida. So I don't know if open beaches in Georgia means yeah they're open, but there's no lifeguards there, so
Well,
you take
you can't go in the water. You
right
can't walk you can walk along the beaches, but also they say that they're going to have patrols
to keep
24/7.
people from gathering in crowds.
Exactly. Exactly. But then the
Well,
people the people who live along the Georgia coast. Now Georgia doesn't have really a big coastline within the
no,
boundaries of Georgia, but even there, I think like they said there was like 3 or 4 mile stretch, and they said, how are you going to patrol that long a beach 24/7? Uh, it's so the people who were told, yeah, you can't go to the beach. Now you can go to the beach. Now
right.
they're upset about what the heck's going on here. I
Well,
don't
also
understand the mindset of the governor.
we look at these. We're also looking at these things in New York with New York eyes. So we're looking at this with a view. of a geographic area with a very, very large population density, and that seems to be what the issue is with regards to these hot spot outbreaks in New York, in New Orleans, in Detroit. They're all hot, high density areas. Southeast Georgia, Savannah is not. Okay, that whole stretch there really is not. It's not like this sort of densely populated area like New York is, where you have wall to wall people on the beaches. So it's a little bit different. The density certainly playing a key role in what's happening in New York City. So at least down in South Georgia, in Southeast Georgia, it's not like that. The density's pretty low. I was in Savannah back a few months ago, and I can tell you that on a regular day in downtown Savannah, you're walking around. It's like pretty much how it looks like social distancing is doing to places up here. There's not a whole lot of people strolling the streets to begin with. It's just, it's a very, very difficult time. And I think the best that we all can do is just try to, of course, stay safe and try to at least consider, whatever it is you're doing, whatever it is, you are impacting other people. And you should strive to do things in a positive way and not a negative way. And let's get through the next couple of weeks and we'll see where we are, where we are at that point.
Yes, and according to Governor Cuomo yesterday, there's actually signs that we may be reaching the top of the curve within the next 7 days. But then, even if we do reach the top and flatten that curve out, it's still going to take probably another couple, 3 more weeks to come on down, so to speak. So
Yeah.
we're not going to be out of this for any even
No, we're
long.
not. So, in view of that, I don't know if you saw, but I started, yeah, over the weekend, over the last couple of days, I am videotaping what I'm making for dinner.
Yeah,
So, so yesterday I did chuck eye fillet steaks, which are referred to as the poor man's ribeye. Those videos are on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, Joe Cioffi. So if you didn't see them yesterday, today. Oh, I did make, and I was surprised. In a way, I was kind of surprised. I didn't expect this. So Friday, I made pastina.
oh my goodness.
Oh my God, people were flipping out over it. It was just
Oh,
amazing. And I got to tell you, Joe, the way I made it. Tell Mrs. Rayo to try this. The way I made it, I boiled the pasta in uh, beef bone broth. Okay, rather than boiling it in water, I boiled the pasta in beef bone broth, and gradually just kind of boiled the water down. Just kind of it's a little tricky because you want to put in enough pasta so that eventually most of the broth just kind of gets absorbed by the pasta itself, and depending on how soupy you want it, you could always add additional broth to it. I prefer it to be with less brothy, so I can put a little tab of curry butter on it and grate some Parmigiano Reggiano cheese over it. And it was, I had leftovers. I had it for lunch yesterday. It's the best comfort food. It really is.
pastina was a staple when I was a very young boy in my house. My grandmother especially used to make it. And I've asked you a question. How often have you made couscous?
With orzo,
Yeah,
yeah,
is
no,
that
I usually I haven't made. Uh, I've used orzo for in soups. But I haven't specifically used it to make couscous. That wasn't orzo. Pastina was big in my house. Orzo
right?
was not. Um, but I do use orzo sometimes, in soup and in or something, or as a pastina substitute.
Right. My wife would periodically make couscous, and just last night or the night before, I said, "You have any couscous around the house? When was the last time we had couscous? That's something different or whatever." So, it's but pastina, man, I haven't had that in a long, long time.
Um, okay, so I'm getting Joe. Joe, I just got a message from Timothy Veltman. It's horrible. Um, So Sean Collins is on the chat board, and he has posted that um, Javon Perry, who's been a regular here on the board on an almost but not quite daily basis, may have passed away from coronavirus
Oh
Friday
my
night.
God. Oh my goodness. Oh dear.
We have to get that verified
We
somehow.
hope, let's hope that that is not the case. With Jaylon, while not a regular, has popped up more often than not on our chat board, and let's hope that that is an unsubstantiated uh, report.
I hope so too. Now I'm actually friends with him on Facebook. So I mean, not that this necessarily proves anything, but he didn't post very much on Facebook, but he would use that to message me on Messenger. So um, I'm going to.
I think
Uh,
the last time, in fact, the last time I saw his name on the chat board, he actually chipped in with something for super chats, and he had a question, as normally is the case.
yeah. Well, no, the last message I got from Javon. No, I wonder. I thought it was an odd response on his part. So the last. Uh, uh, this was last week. So this was on Wednesday, and he said, do you remember what we I took a question on the live stream on Wednesday. We were responding a question about, I guess, the upcoming hurricane season, and talking about the fact that it sort of implies that there's a storm along the East Coast,
Right,
and
acquiring tropical characteristics.
right. So he sent me a question off the chat in Messenger, and asking me because I wasn't able to answer his particular question. So I answered it on Messenger after we were done with the show. And I said, basically, you want a ridge in the west and a trough in the east around the Atlantic Ridge. So he says, thank you so much. It's so cool how weather and jet streams work. And maybe tomorrow night you can draw it live on the live stream. And so what I did was right then and there, I drew a map up on Microsoft Paint, and showed him what the upper air would look like, and he responded to by saying this: "You're the best, thanks, man. I will forever cherish this." Which I thought was kind of an odd reaction, if only because of the fact that, okay, like, yeah, I said weather map. I was more than happy to do it, but he said that he would cherish that. So I just kind of thought that was a little, I don't know. I don't want. I'm not trying to sound insensitive or anything, but it's just like it just. I
You
guess
think that
I guess I thought it is like, okay, well, so it's a weather map. Okay, if you want to cherish it. That's great. But I didn't really read into it anything into it, and now that I'm hearing this, maybe he was sick at the time, and
right?
really appreciated that I took the time out to do what I did. I just didn't, it was something that I wouldn't think twice about doing for anybody if they asked.
Right.
So God, that's awful. So I just messaged him on Messenger. Hopefully you know
Hopefully he will
he will
respond.
respond. Okay, so let's move on and do some weather.
We've been doing this for 23 minutes and we've talked about nothing, everything but the weather.
Well, there hasn't been much going on. Uh, Turned out to be a very nice afternoon yesterday. It was kind of funny because the way the storm came in from the east toward Cape Cod and then turned southward. On Friday, it was cloudy and rainy until you got to southern Pennsylvania and southern New Jersey, southernmost New Jersey southward, where it was, the further south you went, it was partly to mostly sunny. Yesterday, it was reverse. The dry air came in from the northeast, so the places that were cloudy and wet on Friday gradually became partly to mostly sunny yesterday, and the places that were sunny on Friday were overcast all day long yesterday because of how the storm, looped around and then dropped southward. And now, of course, that's all moved away, and we're dealing with clouds right now. Although I'm kind of sensing through my need to be cleaned windows that the sky is at least trying to brighten up some at the moment.
Yeah, I was surprised yesterday. My outlook for yesterday was cloud cover, maybe some breaks of occasional sun during the afternoon, and about 2 o'clock it was so nice, Joe. My daughter came down from New Paltz. My son and my future daughter-in-law came. We were all like staying away from each other up until yesterday, but we stayed a goodly distance from each other. We took out the chairs and we sat on our patio in bright sunshine. It was like 60, 65 degrees. And I said, "This is so nice." And I said, "This is a lot more than just a few breaks in the clouds. This was like full scale bright sunshine, but it was also big, billowing cumulus clouds." And I knew that while we had nice weather at that moment in time, mid afternoon, that eventually the cloud cover was going to come back in. And sure enough, late afternoon and evening, it turned overcast once again. But it was nice to have a few hours, not just of nice weather and sunshine, but also to be able to socialize with members of your family, which is something that a lot of us have not been able to do for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, this is your kids are at least geographically close by. Mine are all over creation. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's a frustrating and worrisome time from that respect. Look, it looks to me like the week this blocky pattern that has set up. It looks like it can wind up being an interesting week coming up overall. My general feeling on an initial view, Joe, is that uh, tomorrow is likely to be the best day of the week weather-wise. I don't know if you feel the same way about that.
Yeah, it looks like tomorrow, if I were back doing TV weather, either on FiOS or News 12 or whatever, I used to have this gimmick. I called it my own gimmick. I should have copyrighted it. I used to have on the 5 day, you'd see POW
Right.
standing
Pick it.
week. And tomorrow, probably, if I were doing television weather, I probably would have nominated tomorrow as pick of the week because it does. I agree with you fully. This looks like tomorrow will be the best day that we're going to see of this upcoming week.
Yeah, I kind of thought that this would be the pick of the week, and uh, the rest of the week. The problem is it's not that we're getting going to get wiped out by weather systems, but we do have a number of weather systems that are going to be moving along right now across the country. It's very quiet. The only place where there's actually some action right now is in California and in Nevada, where we've got wind issues, and we also have winter storm warnings up for the Sierra Nevadas. We also have some winter storm warnings up, Joe, for the mountains north and west of Los Angeles and San Diego. So I'm going to bring up the snow forecast map. I mean, much of that area in those mountains is not really very heavily populated, but it's always interesting to see what goes on out there because those are places where they put up winter weather advisories for 2 to 3 feet of snow. So
Right.
the fact that they have winter storm warnings up usually means that the amounts are going to be fairly significant. So I'm just going to pop up the map and the snowfall forecast map. And actually, you do see some of the mountains north of Los Angeles. There's a um, 28-inch snowfall forecast for that area north and west of Los Angeles, and then up in the Sierra Nevadas. When you go up that chain, 2 to 3 feet of snow in a fairly large area close to the Nevada border. This probably doesn't count whatever has already. This doesn't count what has already fallen. So uh, I'm okay. So Scott Briller just messaged me saying apparently there's a memories of Javon Perry on Facebook, but it doesn't know if it's him. Well, I'm going to take a look at it when I get the opportunity. We'll take a look at it and uh, we'll see. I'll see if it is. 'Cause I think I'll be able to tell whether it is or it isn't. Okay, so that's your snowfall. Generally it's all out. It is out in the west. There's a strong upper low that's coming into California right now, and that's really kind of driving all of this. Snowfall in the east over the next. Oh no, I went too far east. I went to Europe as I slid the map over. Snowfall in the east, up in
Well, maybe
the
you were looking for snowfall in the Alps, Joe.
yeah, it's a coating to an inch in the Adirondacks being indicated, and that's just about it. The other thing I think we want to pay attention to is on Tuesday, Joe. I think it's yeah, this is day 3, so this is Tuesday into Wednesday. SPC is generating an area of slight risk for eastern Illinois, much of Indiana, southwest Ohio, and northern Arkansas, with a bigger area of marginal risk. Um, there might be, I'm going to keep an eye on this. This could, at least for that area, and going to the southeast, is a bit of a warm sector that's going to be setting up with a low that's coming on Tuesday. So just going to watch this closely with regards to potential for severe weather. That seems to be the one area of interest. There's not much going on severe weather-wise today or for tomorrow. This is the map for tomorrow. There's no severe weather being indicated. And for today, there is also no severe weather being indicated, although we do have areas of thunderstorms in play. So Tuesday, I think, is probably one of the things about Tuesday into Wednesday, Joe, with this low that's coming, this first low that's coming down, is that it's going to be one of these situations where the low is going to pass by on Wednesday, probably off the New Jersey coast. So if you're north of there, you're going to be in the 40s and low 50s, and if you're south of there, you're going to be in the 70s.
And I was just I'm
Okay, hold
calling
on,
because you run about a minute behind on YouTube, Joe. I was trying to call up Tropical Tidbits on my own and
I
also SPC.
hold on. I got breaking news. You do that. Hang on 1 second, everybody. Hang on. Um. Okay, so okay, I'm just right. Just hang on, folks. This is going to make everybody feel good, I think. Um. Hang on. Okay, so I am on Messenger right now. You may have be seeing because I have it on the screen. I'm talking with Javon Perry.
Oh,
Okay,
thank goodness.
so he is with us. All right. Um, I'm sure he's going to appreciate the fact that we were sitting Shiva here for him. But he is responding. I sent him a message on Messenger. Um, so thank God for this.
Well, you have to understand how many Jalon Perrys are there in the world? I guess some more than
No,
we.
I guess. By the way, you have wonderful teeth. All right,
Sorry about
so
that, folks.
okay, everybody. So let's make this very clear. Javon is responding to me on the chat, so he still is among us. He is still with us. Okay, and we are extremely thankful for that. God, that was. This is one of the stranger moments that we've had on our show, and it's understandable with everything that's happening. Whoops. All right,
Sorry about
so
that, folks.
my mistake. I hit a button that I shouldn't have. Okay, so that's good. All right, so let's get back to doing some weather. Okay,
Yes.
Javon, if you can, let me just tell him. Can you jump on the live stream and just let everybody know that you're around? Okay, so let's hope that he can do that. And I'm gonna just really quick give him a link in case he has trouble finding it. All right, there you go. Oh God. All right, so where were we? We were
We were
talking.
talking about severe weather in the middle of the country,
Right.
and
Okay, so let me just go back. Yeah. So in the meantime, I'm just going to bring up the what did you said you were looking up something on SPC.
No, I was saying since you run the YouTube runs about 30 seconds to a minute behind, and you're pointing out stuff that is on your screen already, I decided I'd just jump ahead and just look at it myself on SPC and also Tropical Tidbits. And that's when you got a view of my teeth.
Okay. I'm just kind of. I got the U.S. loop right now. The storm, the ocean storm, has weakened quite a bit. It's actually, it's hard to see. It's on the far right of the picture, at least the western edge of it. You can see what's left of the low clouds that are swirling around, and of course you've got the clouds offshore. But now you have this weather system that moved across the Great Lakes and into the Northeast. Joe, it's weakening. I'm seeing slivers of sunshine. There's a widening break that's developing at least at midday here in eastern Pennsylvania. So I think we'll probably, some places are going to break out into some sun, some places are going to have a tougher time. The other thing that's going on today, by the way, you can also see on the far left, you can see the moisture from the upper low that's off the coast of California that is streaming all that precip inland, and that's what is producing snow. Javon is going to jump on the live stream shortly as he is helping his mom, which is what a good son does, and we appreciate that. Radar right now, by the way, this looks like a couple of very light showers moving across upstate New York, central Pennsylvania, down into Ohio and West Virginia. Not so nice today across southernmost Georgia and Florida, where we have some rain going on there, coming in off the Gulf of Mexico. And of course, you can see what's happening out in California, some heavy rain and even some thunderstorms there sweeping, developing just inland of the coast and sweeping northward. That system's going to come east later this week.
Right. Quite a bit of activity down in the so-called Sunshine State this morning, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm just going
Uh,
to, I got the
a
wider view.
rather unsettled Palm Sunday for Floridians, all the way, much of the, I mean, all the way through the Panhandle and almost all the way down to South Florida.
Yep. So that's not coming here, thankfully. I want to see if do we have new teleconnections today? Nope, we don't. These were the teleconnections from yesterday, and you can see the NAO going back to neutral or very slightly positive for about a day, then goes negative again as we go into the middle part of the month. The EPO is negative, so except for a little ride up to the neutral line in a couple of days. So on the whole, that keeps things cooler, and the PNA is off the wall negative now, rises very rapidly to the neutral line by the end of the week, and then goes negative again. The negative PNA signature has been something we've been dealing with for quite a while, and oftentimes when you do see that negative PNA, it's a good indicator for severe weather in the plains and in the Mississippi Valley. But other things have to be in place as well. But I'm going to be curious about Tuesday here with regards, as I said, with the areas in the Ohio Valley. So it's all about blocking, and that's what we have.
I'm just looking, John, just running last night's 0Z run of the GFS, and wash and repeat. Just say, I mean, it's amazing. Like every 2 to 3 days, some kind of system interacts and moves through our area. Most of these storms seem to be taking the track to the north and west of our area, and if folks who live, let's say, out in Detroit or Chicago, they're just cold enough so they can see the flaky stuff right on into the middle of the month. But meanwhile, we here in the east just continue to get one after another of clouds and showery wet weather, and we try to guess whether or not the warm front's going to be able to make it through, and whether or not we get a little bit of a warm up or we stay raw and chilly. It's ridiculous. It
Yeah,
really is.
here's the first warm frontal battle is going to be for Wednesday, because you've got this low in Michigan that's going to be moving southeastward, and it's going to be passing very close to New York City, which means if you're north and west, if you're north of that low track, and you can see right here, it goes virtually right over New York City. North of there, it's going to be on the raw side, but if you are south of there, and this could be central and South Jersey, Pennsylvania, down into Maryland and Virginia, we could see temperatures, especially if you get a little bit of sun in the mix, we could see temperatures climbing up into the 70s in those areas. and
Yeah.
that's kind of what um, that's just sort of how the Weather Service offices in their digital forecasts have played this with regards to. I know we're jumping along to Wednesday, but if you take a look at the temperature profile, you've got 80s shooting up almost to the Washington D.C. Baltimore area. You have 80-degree readings up to St. Louis, 60s reaching just shy of New York City, but just north and west of there, it's 50s and 40s and go up into northern New England, and you've got some places not even getting out of the 30s. So this is what happens in the springtime. You get these warm fronts, and the temperature contrasts become almost supercharged because of the daytime heating that occurs this time of year. So you get these really wide spreads. And you're right, Joe. The next one looks like it's another one that goes by to the north, and that, I guess that would argue for this is right behind us. So this system is for Tuesday night into Wednesday. You already have a system on our doorstep for Thursday.
It looks like it's going to
And
be a cold front midday on Thursday for us with the main storm track north and west.
yeah, and then after that, it gets a little bit questionable because there is energy that's going to be swinging around, and I think we're going to have to wait and see, whether we wind up getting phasing or not phasing with regards to the upper air. And I'll show you what I mean. So just going to bring up the European from last night and bring up the upper air. And this would be maybe for Easter weekend or just beyond it. But you do have, when you look at the setup here in the upper air with this blocking pattern that we have, uh, even though the block does weaken some, it does hold on to an extent as we go into the middle part of next week and actually rebuilds. So you've got the jet displaced way to the south, and one of the things I'm noticing here is, you've got what looks like could eventually wind up being some form of a 50-50 low. You have energy coming down in the northern stream, and then you've got this wrapped up system that's off the coast of California that comes inland by the time we get to the middle of the week, and that's going to be playing eastward. So, there's a lot of energy running around here. And I think the models are going to have a difficult time coming to terms with how this all plays out. The GFS kind of keeps things very broad, so the systems would stay relatively weak. The jet stream just kind of ebbs and flows and flexes. The European actually gave a little bit more of a dynamic look to things going into next weekend, and I'm going to sort of bring the European up in its upper air. It shows more of a system here in the southern stream next Friday, and then a northern stream feature coming down. You see the system that's off of near Newfoundland that pulls out, and then suddenly you've got what looks like maybe a stronger trough coming into the east late next weekend and early of the week of April 13th. So we'll see if how that plays. But it does have a bit more of a dynamic look to it, and it would all have to do with timing.
I would say though that the models in general now have better than average agreement right on through the next 5, 6, 7 days. There's some minor differences, and then next weekend the European starts to it's trying to phase the northern and southern streams of energy that creates that area of rather enhanced low pressure over the central Appalachians by the middle or latter part of next weekend. If you want to look that far out, again, we've been seeing the European all winter long and now early spring, continuing to play the game of trying to make something out of a system or systems beyond 5 days, and it never really works out that way. But I'd say up until then, the models are generally good agreement.
So Javon Perry, we're back full screen, Joe. So Javon Perry is um, on the board. Okay, so that was a very that's this has been a very interesting Sunday. I got to make sure Chuck this. Okay, Chuck's on the board too, so I know because Chuck Cardillo. I read your comments. You were very upset by this, so I wanted to make sure you were on here. Otherwise, I would have messaged you directly. Okay, good. A good way to finish a rather strange Sunday show, Mr. Rayo.
I don't know why, but all of a sudden Daffy Duck came into my head. It wasn't there a cartoon where,
The
for
name
whatever
is
reason,
Daffy Duck. Daffy Uck.
but I mean, wasn't there a cartoon, a specific cartoon? I think it was with Porky Pig, where for whatever reason Daffy said, "Praise the Lord." Remember that?
I'm trying to remember. That does sound familiar, but I don't know which card. The
I think Porky Pig had run out of bullets in his rifle, and he said, "What's going on, fat stuff?" And he says, "I don't have any more bullets." And I think Daffy said, "Praise the Lord."
well, those Daffy Duck, Porky Pig cartoons actually are quite. Some of them are quite funny.
Right.
I've told you this. I've always liked the one that's entitled "Truth or Ah," which was a parody of the old television show "Truth or Consequences."
Or the one with Art Lamplighter.
Art Lamplighter, yes.
People are
Art.
phony.
And then, of course, they there were always little things like that. Like, for example, if there was a cartoon that involved um, someone going to a department store, and they would parrot. They would instead of calling it Macy's, they would call it Stacy's or
Stacy's, right.
Lacey's. And it was always very interesting in some of these cartoons in terms of the human beings in them, particularly some of the ones in the 50s that B. Benaderet voiced. And
Right.
for those of you, B. Benaderet was also the voice of Betty on the Flintstones,
Right.
and she was on Petticoat Junction. She was also on Burns and Allen. She was the original pick to be Ethel Mertz
Right.
on I Love Lucy, but she had already signed to do Burns and Allen, so she couldn't do it.
Pete
But
Derrick is also the voice. Remember the one where the bulldog falls in love with the kitten, and
yes,
and with the one with the pressing the cookies or whatever,
yes. Mm-hmm.
and and he thinks that the cookie is the is the kitty, and like B. Benadet's voice, well, come on, take it.
Yeah, we always you only saw the adults in those particular cartoons. You never saw them. Usually, in most of them, you didn't see their faces.
Right.
You only saw the legs,
Right.
or enough of the body just to give you an idea. Because the focus was always on the animals in those cartoons and didn't want it necessarily at being focused on. And B. Benaderet always talks about the fact that
Right.
she never got a credit for doing those voices. She did a lot of those particular voices. So um, so to keep things normal after what happened today, I'm going
Look at
to
this. Look at this now.
go ahead.
We just got a super chat from Jaylon Perry.
Oh, you didn't need to do that,
No,
Javon. Save your money in these troubled times, everybody.
and he's
But
telling
thank
and
you.
he's thanking you again for the hurricane map, Joe.
And he's doing a weather presentation for his family and some friends that love the weather. Well, that's a wonderful thing. Hey, that's kind of that's what I used to do when I was young, when I was your age, and I think that's what Joe did when he was your age too. So thank you very much for that. Really do appreciate it. And thank God you're okay. you know, weird morning, very
Amazing.
weird
This
morning.
reminds me of the remember when the pronouncement came down that Bob Hope had died, and Bob Hope was still alive.
Well, and then there was Abe Vigoda. There was for years the whole Abe Vigoda thing,
Right.
where people actually thought he was dead until he really did die.
Right.
You know. Okay, so hold on a second, Joe. I think there's a Briller Jeopardy in here somewhere. Um, I'm trying to find it. I'm slow on the uptake
Scott
today.
Briller. Scott Briller was talking about. He sent me something on Friday, and he said that he had looked at the experimental 3 to 4 week prog, which suggested below normal temperatures, and we were just inside of the above normal precipitation. And he was saying he still has his fingers crossed. I think he said for the 24th of April.
Oh, well, that would be close to a record if something at this point. We're starting to get into the days where there were, when you look at the records, the amount of the snowfall for those dates are either trace or zero. So, we're done. I don't, no. No, no. Okay. Um. Oh, here's an interesting one. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Um. And Scott does recommends the movie The Invisible Man. What was the first product advertised on television?
The first product that was ever advertised on
Ever
television?
advertised. So I guess the first commercial or the first sponsor.
Ah, it wouldn't be toilet paper.
No, no, it would not.
um, I really,
All right, I'll
was
tell you. I'll tell.
a coffee sponsor,
No.
something
Um.
coffee.
No.
Which, by the way, you talk about the incredible, the Invisible Man.
Yes.
If you ever saw the Incredible Shrinking Man, here the Incredible Shrinking Man is battling a spider over a crumb, a bread crumb, and in the back you see king size Martinson's coffee, a can of Martinson's coffee.
Oh, I
Remember
love
that?
stuff like that. Yeah. No, it was for watches.
Okay.
Okay, so now can you guess what kind of watches? What brand of watches?
Bush or Bush's watch. Remember Bush's used to advertise watches in the newspaper.
Oh yeah, yeah. But
Um,
I do remember, but it wasn't Bush's.
Timex,
Wasn't time. It's not Timex.
Bulova,
There it is, Bulova.
Bulova.
Bulova were the first watches.
Now
Uh,
was that the one where John Cameron Swayze was always showing you they would attach the Bulova watch to, let's say, the rotary engine of an outboard motor,
no, that
put it in
they
the
did
water and
no.
spin it around, and then they would and then he would pull it back up and say it's still ticking.
John Cameron Swayze, I think he did Timex. Those were
Timex. Okay.
Timex watches. Do
Right.
they even
Okay.
have Timex watches anymore?
Um, I don't know. I have a watch. I think my watch upstairs on the hutch in my bedroom is Bulova. I'm wearing now. Everybody seems to be wearing the Fitbit watch,
Mm-hmm.
and I've only got 832 steps so far today, Joe.
All right. Well, now that we're wrapping up, I did a 6 mile plus walk yesterday, and I'm about to go on a 6 mile plus walk for today. Let me point out again. I mentioned this earlier. For those of you who are running out of things to cook, I put up a video yesterday on how to make chuck eye fillet steaks. You could use the same approach to cooking just about any steak you'd like in a cast iron skillet. That's the only thing that is required. And Mr. Rayo, just sit up just a little bit. Your head's off your chin. Is there you go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. So
Sorry to slump.
they're on my YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be making roast chicken. Okay, and one of the things, Joe, one of the sins that people do with roast chicken is they take it out of the oven too late, and you wind up with breast meat that is just basically like shoe leather. And I'm going to talk about how you can avoid that. It's a little tricky, but we'll talk. It's a tease. We'll talk about it on the video. I won't be doing it live. I will be doing it. I'm going to tape it and then upload it because that'll let me do things. I'll be able to do more with it as opposed to just kind of running the camera live.
Scott Driller has posted on the board here. What year was cigarettes banned from advertising on TV? I think that was either at the end of 1970 or in 1971. Um, so it's and I also seem to remember. I think it was on the Flip Wilson show, or maybe it was on Laugh-In.
Hmm.
I think Sammy Davis Jr. They were making fun about how toward the end of their run on television, they were trying to make these cigarette commercials more sensual, so to speak. And you see like Sammy Davis Jr. in bed with a giant cigarette, and he looks at the camera and he says,
Yes.
"Have you felt this way about your cigarettes lately?"
Yeah.
You know, silly
Oh.
things like that.
So yeah, I'm reading some of the comments on the chat. It's nice to see how much everybody really, this piece of fake news wound up affecting everybody. So that's a big plus. And also, here's a
Capital says 1971, so
okay.
we were right in a way.
Um, this is a another good example, by the way. Just to carry it on to the stuff of the regular day that you see online. Be sure to verify. Be sure that your sources are credible. If you want medical information, don't go to Doctor Facebook. Go to the CDC. Go to if you've got if you know a local physician, if someone is a friend of someone you might be friends with or related to, make sure you get your information from credible sources. And we let us continue to do social distancing, right, Mr.
Yes,
Rayo?
absolutely. I don't know how many people who watch CBS2 noted that Lonnie Quinn, who has been doing the weather for the past couple of weeks from the CBS weather van, um, weather lab,
Hmm.
uh,
Oh, now
began.
the weather barn apparently.
He now is,
Nice.
and the barn dates back, according to him, back to the 19th century, and they were able to put up a chroma key. It's not even a wall. It's more like they stretched out a canvas, kind of like what we had at RNN, Joe. And he's
Yeah.
doing the weather now from inside the weather barn, so to speak.
Do they have chickens in the weather barn? Because there are a few people on the chat board saying that they can't get chickens where they are. So.
Well, you know why Lonnie is doing it from the weather barn. He didn't have good internet from his house, so he moved everything. He moved his modem into the barn, and now he has stable Wi-Fi.
Well, that's interesting.
Stable
Stable Wi-Fi.
state Wi. Yeah.
Oh
Anyway,
God, stable Wi-Fi. Yeah.
that's the best I could do for a Sunday.
Gotcha. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your Sunday. It's coming up on 12 noon. So look for that roast chicken video later today. And if you want more info on pastina, which is like it's a great comfort food, just message me either on Discord or on Facebook. If we're connected on Facebook, I'll be more than happy to tell you how to make it. It's very easy. Okay. By the way, a lot of my videos are designed, and I'm gonna be a little bit biased here. A lot since it's usually guys that tend to cook less than ladies. Um, my videos are kind of designed to get guys off their semi-soft rear ends and get them in front of a stove. Okay, not that women can't profit from my advice. They certainly can, but just so guys, don't be afraid to cook. Okay, it's a very creative thing. It's a relaxing thing, and it certainly will get your mind off of it. And ladies, those of you who are watching, you will see my recipes, which I'm sure you will have suggestions on how to improve them. Um, as a I tend to be very touchy about the suggestions, but I will listen with an open mind. All right.
It seems very apropos that you're telling everybody this or saying this because before we came on the air this morning at 10:30 on MeTV on the
Yes.
Flintstones, they had the episode "The Happy Homemaker," where Wilma went on television to become the happy
Happy
homemaker,
homemaker.
leaving Fred without being able to eat anything because he was always used to coming home and having Wilma cook his dinner.
Because Wilma was the happy homemaker. Yeah, there was a TV show, regular TV show that had an episode like that. Am I right?
Right, right, and you know the best line, one of the I if there were the top 5 or 10 lines from the Flintstones, one of them was in that episode where Betty invited Fred to eat at their house for the next 39 weeks while Wilma was on television, and Barney said,
Yes.
"Fred Flintstone's going to eat with us for 39 weeks. Betty will be ruined." Oh, come on now, Barney. How much can Fred Flintstone eat? What's the line, Joe?
I don't
How
remember.
much can Fred Flintstone eat?
I don't know. I don't remember. What is the line?
Nobody knows. He's never been filled.
Christina Pedia points out women, it's woman, because apparently she's the only one that's on the chat on a regular basis, and I stand corrected.
Yes.
Okay, I
Okay.
stand corrected. Chris Alley, happy birthday to Mrs. Alley. And yes, you don't have to take her out. You can't take her out today, but you can order takeout. Oh, okay. I'm sure you can find a restaurant to order takeout. But wish her a happy birthday. from both Joe and I, and of course I see everybody's expressing wishes on the board. So see you tomorrow. Regular live stream, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Have a great day.
And happy Palm Sunday.